Hey, good evening and welcome to Winning Wednesday at Charlotte Stallings. Hey, Happy New Year to everybody. I hope your holidays were great. I hope you have launched into your 2024. It's like 10 days in and it already feels like we're already through this month. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but I do. So just wanted to welcome you here. Thanks for being here. And really just trying to re-engage, not re-engage, but just get back into the swing of things. Kicking off 2024, our Winning Wednesdays, talking about what I like to call positioned for the possible. Positioned for the possible. And I made some notes because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing anything. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. And you know what you can do for me is share this. If you've got some comments, you can add them. I'd love for you to share, tag somebody, jump in, give some thoughts in the comments as well so that I can hear from you. So, what I'm really trying to do, those have been with me for a while. We started this in 2020. Again, it was during the pandemic. My goal was to share some things with all of you that I knew and then bring people to you who could share with you. And it's continued, and it's because it's in my heart. It's in my heart. And I want us to all win without perfection or permission. So on Winning Wednesday, what I'm going to do for 2024 is come to you one time with some learnings and things, not just kind of Charlotte lessons and learnings, but things that I'm pulling in from my clients that I can share with you, things that I'm taking in. And then the second time in the month is to bring a guest, bring somebody and who's winning in life, in business, without perfection or permission, and they're doing it day in and day out, so that we can see real role models. Sometimes we think those who are in the media, oh, they got it going on, and they do, and yet there are people among us who are making things happen. So I want to feature those people and bring them to you, and they're regular everyday people, or they've started a business and they've stopped and started, or whatever it might be, but bringing those folks to you. So I've got some great folks lined up, and so my goal is a couple times a month that you'll be able to hear from us. So thank you for being here, those who are in, and put something in the comments so that I know you're here. Okay. So let's get into it. Tonight, I want to talk about what I'll call positioned for possible. And I like alliterations where you hear like the P sound, that's a double kind of P, positioned for possible. Alliterations really do something for me. I'm a wordy, like some people are foodies. I'm a wordy. So I like words, and I like when people pronounce their words right. And hey, Marie, glad to see you. I really get offended when people mispronounce words. I can't even explain to you what that does to me, but I get all worked up. So, positioned for possible. Let's talk about it. Hey, Wilma, I'm so glad you're here. So, positioned, and that's what I want to do. Jump right into stuff, not do long drawn out, but just get right here. Hey, everybody, so glad you're here. So, positioned, when we think about the definition, and again, I took some notes. I want you to be able to capture what it is that's been downloaded for me. So positioned means situated, stationed, placed, occupying, planted, or standing. And I don't see this as like you're stuck. It is, how are you readying yourself for what is possible? Sometimes the word impossible comes to mind. Oh, it's impossible. I don't think I'll ever be able to do that. And that's not the case. What's the possibility? And when I looked at definitions, there are all kinds of definitions for possible. The big one that stuck out for me is attainable. So I want to be situated for what's attainable, what's within my reach. I want to be stationed or placed in the position for the attainable. What is, even if it's outside my reach, it can happen. So being positioned for the possible, not the impossible. It's real easy to move through life and go, oh, that's not going to work. This isn't going to work. I want for myself and for each one of you to have the mindsets that all of it's possible. All of it is possible. Every dream we have, every desire, it is all possible. And I think from some work I've done internally and working with a lot of folks, it comes through a variety of different things. So I'm going to play on the letter P some more tonight. Okay. You're going to hear me use some words, and we won't be here long. That I've found for myself and for those that I coach and do a lot of work with. I do a lot of speaking. and a lot of executive coaching. And I love that work where I get to work one-on-one with some pretty powerful people, powerful in the sense that they lead big, massive teams and have large initiatives. And I want to help them and I want to help you. So I'm gonna share. So there's no real order to any of these things. I'm just gonna put them forward with some examples. So let's start with our first P. And let me see how many I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like 7, and I like 7. My birthday is on the 7th, and so 7, there might be one more, but let's get started. Oh, so here's the first one. In order to be positioned for the possible, for what's attainable, even if it seems like it's outside of our reach, we need to picture it. Picture it. See it. I remember years ago at our church, Bishop Drew Sheard, who's now the international bishop of the Churches of God in Christ. At that time, he was Pastor Sheard, and he came to our church and he spoke and he talked about you've got to see it before you see it if you want to see it. And I might be messing that up. Hey, Mom, so glad you're here. Thank you. And Alicia and Alicia and Monica and everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Yolanda and Jackie. Hey, Milan. You've got to see it before you see it in order to see it. That was so many years ago. I still remember that. Maybe he isn't the originator of it, but it was so true. So what are you picturing that's possible for you? Now, Alicia is on here. She's my friend, my soror, my sister. And she pictured a long time ago obtaining a doctorate degree. She's on it. My good friend, Dr. Margot Hickman, years ago when Milan, our daughter, was little bitty shorty, she pictured moving from one line, a career that she had to a whole nother. And getting her doctorate was a part of what she was picturing for herself. She was positioning herself for what was, maybe it felt like out of reach, way past her reach back then, but it was a dream that she had. So picturing it, what are you picturing for yourself? What are you seeing before you see it so that you can really see it, so that it can materialize and become very tangible for you? So Margot is a great example. And another soror and friend, I love her, Morgan. We call her Mully. She every year has a vision party and a vision board party. And I know many people do different takes on that and goals. What I love about her party, number one, it's brunch and it's mimosas and things. And it's fellowship and it's fun and we can clip and do what we want or not. I like going there because it helps me picture what I want for me for the coming year or for that week or that month. And what I've learned, here's a big learning that I want to share with you all. Sometimes less is more. I'm not saying don't dream big. I am saying, and I'm speaking to me, sometimes I got so many things that I'm picturing, and then I'm not able to hone in on any one good solid thing. Now, I'm going to bounce around a little bit because in this picturing it, one of my mentors from afar, she doesn't know it, but it's Mel Robbins. I love listening to her. She has a great podcast, and she was being interviewed and was discussing how she's achieved what success she's attained. And her first thing out of her mouth, it was a great episode. She was talking about the power of just focusing on one thing. One thing. She's like, there's a whole lot of things I can do, and I've done this and I've done that, but one thing. And you know what? My sister told me about that. I was going through a whole bunch of something some years ago. I was really messed up. And my sister Ivy said, Charlotte, today, let's just focus on one thing. What's one thing you can focus on? And that helped me. And so what I'm saying, in our picturing it to be positioned for the possible, the things that we want to attain, I want you to picture it. I want you to see it before you see it so that you can see it. And I want you to get laser focused, like a horse with blinders on. Kentucky Derby, those horses, any race horses, they've got these on so they're not distracted by what's to the right or to the left. How about you? What are you focused on? There's even a book, The One Thing. I didn't know this book existed. It's called The Surprisingly Simple Truth Behind Extraordinary Results by Gary Keller with another guy, Gary Keller. I haven't even read it all, but it just inspires me. And Mel Robbins talked about it, and I'm sure other people do. The one thing. So when you're picturing, you can picture a whole lot. I picture a whole lot. I got a little index card on the refrigerator with all the places I want to visit. Go back to Sedona here and there. But is there one main thing? And why one main thing? So you can go deep, so you can be the expert in that area, so that you can attain all the knowledge. You can just really get in there and do your best work. What's the focus area? What are you picturing? It could be lots of things. What's the one thing that rises up? And you might say, Charlotte, how do I don't know, do I got to pick? And another coach that I had once told me some years ago, Mark LeBlanc, he was a former president of the National Speakers Association. And he said, if you've got a lot of things that you're visioning or seeing, you're not rejecting those others by focusing on one. But what you're doing is giving yourself the opportunity in picturing that one thing and keeping that front and center, top of mind. What you're doing is allowing yourself to harness all of your energy, all of your focus, all of your resources there. And then you can assess, is this the right place or not? You can assess after a quarter, half year, a full year, whatever you want to do. So I think there's great power in that. So how do we position ourselves for the possible, what we want to attain or what is attainable? One way is to first picture it. Picture a lot of things, but picture what's the one thing where you really want to be. And for me, and I'm putting this out there, so you all, when you see me or when we talk, you can talk to me about it. I really want to grow my speaking business, my consulting business. And so that's what I've got top of mind. I'm picturing a lot of things that I want to achieve and do. Yet that thing is the singular thing where I really want to draw all energy. And why? So other things that come my way, does it line up with that thing that I'm picturing or not? So what do I need to do? Okay. So I want you thinking about that. Picture it. Now, here's another P. And again, I'm writing some notes here. I wrote some notes because I wanted to be very intentional and not random. Here's another one. Preparing or / plan. In order to be positioned for what is possible or what we want to attain, we have to prepare. You got to get ready. You got to do the work. I grew up in church. You all know that. Or maybe you don't, but we grew up in church and I'm so thankful. My mom's on, and Mom, thank you for taking us to church. And that was so great foundational stuff for us that I reference things that I learned at He Is Risen Church of God in Christ today. I certainly do. This idea of preparation, planning, getting ready, even if you don't know when the thing is going to happen, getting ready. I'm going to reference my friend again, Dr. Margot Hickman. She wanted to go into theater. She was working in a corporate role, and she started a theater school. You may think, oh, she bought a building, all that. No, she leased out a room within a community center and weekly had classes, and it was her theater school. And I know this because we took Milan. And there was another student who was there. And sometimes it would just be Milan and Dr. Hickman. Sometimes it would be a couple of other students, sometimes not. But you know what? What Dr. Hickman was doing was preparing for what was going to come down the road. Maybe she didn't know. She was singular in her focus, but she was preparing then. And so now Dr. Hickman, she has her doctorate degree. She was a theater teacher at Jack Yates High School for many years. And now, how about she runs some things over at the University of Houston in their theater department? Woo-hoo-hoo. When you see Dr. Hickman, hit her up. I mean, not hit her up, try to just congratulate her. She prepared. How am I going to run a whole theater department? Maybe that wasn't even on her dashboard. But she started where she was. And that's what I'm learning for me, I need to do. And then the clients that I coach, many of them come to me to get help in being better leaders. Many reach out because they want to be better at presenting and not getting nervous when they present and speak. I literally had a gentleman who was the president of a whole company, a very successful, huge organization. And whenever he got up to speak, he was just super nervous. And he said, Charlotte, I can't run a whole entire organization and be this way. So he was preparing for next. He was the president, huge organization, made tons of money, very successful gentleman. He certainly is, but wanting to prepare, putting ourselves in the position. So planning, preparing, what are you doing? I have another client. She and her husband have a very successful health care business. I'll leave it at that. But she and I only met. We just first met for the last time late last year in person. She heard me on Sarah Jakes Roberts, forgive me, Sarah Jakes Roberts podcast a couple of years ago, and reached out to me and said, we're building this company and I know I need to get ready. And it was, what are you building? I'm not sure, but I know I'm building something. I know I'm going to be employing people. I know we're going to need to buy a building. I know I'm going to need to be presenting to people. I know I'm going to need those things. So I got a plan now. And I said, of course. So she hired me and we've done tons of work. And now they've done exactly that. You have a full staff, licensed through the state of California to do a lot of great work. I go out and train her team. And so planning, preparing, what's the thing that you're picturing? How are you preparing and planning for that now? That's what we've got to do. Okay. So preparing and planning, these are ways to position ourselves to attain what is possible. May have seemed impossible, but it's really possible. It's within our reach. Let's go on. I've got another P. Here it is. We got to practice that thing. We got to practice it, whatever that thing might be. And maybe it's not a job or a particular role, but it's a habit. It's a behavior. My sister and I were talking today about something, and the idea of practicing being on time, the idea of practicing following up with people, the idea of practicing putting yourself in situations where it stretches me, I'm uncomfortable. That's different. I mean, it's good. And let me give you an example. I last year, through a great connection, was invited to a gala that was not just the gala, but it was an organization doing some certification for local minority businesses. And I didn't know anybody. And that was like, I felt really weird. I couldn't explain it. It's like, I don't know anybody. Oh, this is anxiety inducing for me. And because I work primarily by myself as a consultant and a speaker, and I work with clients, but I'm mostly by myself and I have been for many, many years. So getting into the setting, it was just so not typical of me, but I did, and I pushed, and I had to practice doing what I say to my clients, showing up. Don't worry, just extend your hand and say hello, introduce yourself to people. And I got to tell you, I had to do exactly that. So practice stretching myself, practice those things that might seem like I got that. I crush that every day, but do we really? Do we get places and kind of let me go talk to who I normally do? Oop, let me see who I know. Oh, I know that person. Hey, let me come hang with them. Like that's what networking is all about. It's reaching out, and it's even, do you practice being able to broaden your dialogue? There's some people I talk to, and they talk about the same thing every day in, day out. There's nothing new. It is like that. I know what they're going to say. They don't say anything, and that's it. I'm not knocking that, but it's just, do you practice stimulating your brain in a different way? Again, we're talking about being positioned for the possible. What is it that we want to attain? So are you practicing broadening what you look at? Sometimes I listen to crazy radio stations that are not necessarily in line with what my thoughts might be. Not that they're bad or shady, just so I can understand or try to understand what is some of the other thinking. And then I can have a dialogue. I can have a conversation. So how about you? How about you? We've talked about picturing it. We can picture lots of things, but I want you to be singular. What's one thing? The one thing you're gonna sink your teeth into, like a pit bull, like a pit bull. We've talked about picturing it. We've talked about preparing and planning. We've talked about practice. And I like to say this, and you all know it. The more you do, the better you'll get. The more you do, the better you get. You want to speak, you got to go speak. We can say all day, and I say this to lots of people that I coach around speaking. They go, I want to be a speaker. Well, where are you speaking? Well, nowhere. Okay, well, you got to go speak. So every chance you get, pick the low hanging fruit. Anyway, that practice. The more you do, the better you'll get. Let's go on. Here's another P that I want you to consider. And I'm going to use this word in two different pronunciations. First, I want you to present yourselves when the possible, when the attainable shows up. I want you to raise your hand. I want you to say, me, I'll do it, even when you're afraid, even when you're really scared, you're nervous, because that's how you get better. So you have to present yourself. You can't sit back and go, I really want to, and then hate on the people who are out there doing it. Can't do that. I'll give you two examples. Early on in my career with American Express, I was in one part of the company, wanted to get to another part. And so I took a demotion, lost, didn't lose money. I chose to take a pay cut so I could move laterally to be able to proceed. And that was just the best move ever. I'm so thankful for the wherewithal to do that. And there was another person who we had the job title. I was something like a specialist. And I remember like the second day of work, she goes, "Oh, you and I are just peons." Who you're talking to? Peon? What do you mean? Our title is such and such, so we're just peons. We're low on the totem pole. And I thought, this lady is nuts. I did not take a huge pay cut to come over here and be a peon. No, ma'am, not me. So where I'm going with this is every time I was asked to give an update or a presentation, I pulled out my flip chart. I had some slides. I had some colored markers. I was doing a full-blown presentation. And they would say things like, "We only wanted an update. Why did you do all of that?" And sometimes I'd shrink back and I'd feel bad, like, "Oh, I'm doing the most." But there was just something in me. I needed to present what I knew I was, which was I'm not a peon. And I wasn't hired as that, but I wanted more and I wanted to accelerate quickly and remake this money and to get to something else. Yeah. So I'd pop up with flip chart pages and slides and do the whole shebang. I'm supposed to give a 2-minute update on my part of a project. I give them a whole good 5 minutes. I had some slides, I had some flip chart pages. And how about, because I was presenting myself when the possible, when the attainable showed up, another vice president said, "I see how you just bring it. Yeah, like I love your presentation skills. I love that you're yourself. And that's what I'm looking for. Will you join my team?" And that led to one thing and another thing, and then ultimately being a vice president of investment strategies and leading a big team. So I'm not here like popping off or like Charlotte's all that. I just know that raising our hands, present yourself when the possible shows up or it even looks like that. Please don't shrink back. Please don't pull back. One of my clients, he literally senior leader in an organization, and he went to his leaders to say, "I never present anything. I don't. And I need to get better at this. I want to get better at this." And so we've been talking over these last weeks, and I was so excited. He said, "Charlotte, there's this big meeting on February 9th, and like 800 people will be there. And so help me put this presentation together and help me do this and crush it." And I said, "I absolutely will." And so I said, "Well, how did this happen? Did they come and reach out to you?" He said, "No, I volunteered." He said, "I volunteered." Now, this is like a senior executive leader. He said, "I raised my hand because I want to get better. I can't lead teams and talk about improve yourself, get better, and I'm not doing that." And he said, "Of course, nobody's told me I do a bad job, but I know that I can do better." So this next P, present yourself. Step up, jump in there, afraid or not. You all know I say this often, do it afraid. Feel the fear and do it anyway. If you're shaking in your boots, your heart is jumping out of your chest, do it. Do it. I even tatted it on my foot. I'll take a picture of that one day. Do it afraid. And I have to remind myself because I get afraid. I get nervous. Okay. Thank you, Milan said, talk my talk. I am. So present yourself when the possibilities show up. Even if they don't show up, you go find them. You go find them. Look for where you can shine. Look for those. You want to sing? We got to be out front. Now, I don't sing. They would never let me sing. Pam Jones, rest her soul. I always say, "Can I sing?" No, I know I can't sing. She's like, "No, you stay with what you do. You just talk." But you got to look for those opportunities. So you go seek them out, okay? I want you to do that. Don't shrink back. Thank you, Monica. I get it. Thank you, Cherise. So good to see you. Hey, Amber and Sabrina. Here's the next thing. It's still the work. Instead of present yourself, I want you to be present. Be present when it's your time. Be present. So if you raise your hand, you say, "Hey, I want to do this. Yes, I'm going to jump in." And then when they go, "Okay, you're up," you got to bring your A game. I'm just be quiet from you. Bring your A game. So you prepare, you do whatever you need to do so you can show up. So when it's your turn, they want you back. They refer you. Amber is a realtor. Met a couple of real estate brokers. Cassie Simmons, a Soren friend, is a real estate broker. So people will go, you looking for a house? Call her. Oh, you need this person? Call this person. You gotta be present. Own that stuff. Like, do it. And I say that. So many of you, it's so funny to me. And if you're here in Houston and you've known me for a while, I used to regularly be on Fox. It was like for 5, 6 years, every Friday morning, I would drive over there to do like 5 minute segment and come on home. And that it worked because it was before all the heavy traffic and whatnot. And so what it did, never think that folks who show up, I can't say never, some are maybe paid guests, but I was never a paid guest. I did it because it kept me sharp. It kept me in front of people and public. And I'd ask the producers, "Well, why do you really want me?" They're like, "Because you show up, because you make our jobs easy. You do a great job. You help us prepare. We get the stuff together." And that's what I mean about being present. Be so good that they say, "Who should we call that person?" And so that was like 5, 6 years all the time. And then it got to where, "Ooh, I'm tired of driving over there." So they'd say, "Can we send a crew to your house?" "Sure." "Y'all drive right on over here. Get your cameras." And they would. They'd record me, and I have recordings of that. Then virtual with the pandemic, and they'll still call. And I was just on a couple of weeks ago. And again, this isn't me boasting. This is an example of what I know I've committed to. It's not just TV, but even with my clients, how can I serve them? When I show up to train or to coach them, I'm here. You may not be, or you may be late, but Charlotte's here. I'm committed to that. So I want you to be present. So they want you back. And so that you can keep growing. Okay. A few more P's. And thank you all for being on here. I see you, I hear you, and I'm delighted. I got a few more. Now, here's what happens too. You'll have a loss, an L. It didn't go right. I screwed up. Client, client took a new direction. They're doing something different. I don't want you to pacify the L's. Pacify. Think about a pacifier for a baby. They're going to suck on that. That keeps them quiet and calm. We can pacify, sit on, twist our fingers over. My sister and I talk about that a lot. That used to be a thing. Are you pacifying some L's that you've had professionally or personally? Maybe it was something you didn't see coming. Maybe there was a layoff. Oh my gosh, those happen. Nothing has to do with you. Was it a relationship thing? Something didn't turn out the way that you wanted. I say this because I'm still working on it, but feel it, be frustrated, talk to a friend, phone a friend, get it out of your system, whatever that looks like. But I've come to learn that you can spend too much time on that thing and then you lose time that you could be putting towards something else. So are you pacifying the L's? And I'll ask you to ask yourself, so how's that working for you? What's that doing for you? And so what's the alternative then? You know what? Maybe I feel bad. Something was very traumatic and significant and huge, whether it's a loss of someone or a loss of a job or a relationship or whatever that looks like. Car went crazy, got a whole big bill about something, HVAC went out, whatever it might be. I acknowledge that those can be rough and tough and hard. But the more we just kind of sit with it and just like, yeah, and they did me wrong and this and that and the other, and they shouldn't have, and then we're just marking time and not even doing it and just kind of marking time. We're not moving forward, not moving backward. We're just marking time, and that's just digging us down. So are you pacifying any L's? And I'm doing this because that's what it makes us look like. And then notice who your dialogue. Every time you're talking to somebody, it's like, girl, let me tell you. And somehow the conversation gets back to the L. And this is deep. I'm being real straight. A friend said to me once, you know, a person hasn't healed from something when it shows up in every single conversation. Hey, Jimmy, you haven't healed. You haven't worked through that. You're still pacifying that loss, that L, because it's showing up in all the conversations. And when the friend said it to me, I don't think they were trying to be mean or even say, this is you, Charlotte, but it was big. It was huge. It's me. I keep talking about this thing. It shows up, whatever it is. It's like nursing a cup of coffee or a drink. People talk about that. They'll have a drink somewhere and they sipping on that drink all night or all day at a gathering or a party. Are you continuing to do that? And so how do you position yourself for the possible? You got to figure out how I can minimize pacifying the L's. And the L's aren't bad. The losses aren't bad. Oh, wasn't it Jalen Hurts for last year's Super Bowl or something? And in an interview, somebody said, oh, what do you think about this loss? And he said, you know what? They're not losses, they're learnings. What did I learn from it? What did I learn from it? A friend who I know through Elizabeth, Junine, we were at a gathering a couple of years ago, and Junine lives in Dallas, and she had been married a few times. And so she said, you know, some people would look at that, I'm paraphrasing, like, oh, she's bad at relationships. She's like, no, what I've learned is I have the capacity to love. I like that. That's not pacifying a loss or looking at it as such. So you got to not pacify the losses, okay? Whatever they might be. A couple more. I want you to also push past hesitation. Push past hesitation, second guessing, overthinking, all that stuff, because that can keep you from being positioned for the possible. And when the possible, what you want to attain shows up, I don't know. Let me go check with Yolanda. Let me see what Amber says. I better go see Michelle. What do they say? And then you get 18 different opinions, and then you're overwhelmed with them, so you do nothing. You got to push past hesitation, second guessing. And sometimes it's a jump. So for me, this is a little oddball one. I used to wear my hair short for years, and my hairstylist, Monica, who is on, will tell you, Miss Charlotte, when she finally get ready, it'll take a minute, but I get ready. And so it was April. It was the opportunity we were doing this photo shoot for the Fearless Female Forum, Nikita. Awesome, amazing woman and business owner who invited me to partner with them. And I wanted something different. So boom, the bob went from short to the bob. And I was yet pushing through that. What was comfortable? Comfortable is, let me keep this short. Let me know what I'm going to do every single time. And it's been like giving me life. I'm ready to get it redone, Monica. I'll be in there. Can you push through where you might hesitate? My Bible study through Proverbs 31, I love that. It's a great app. It's called First Five. I've been studying the book of Esther, and you all know the story. If you don't, it's a wonderful story, wonderful read. But I realized Queen Esther, there was a place in there where she hesitated. And had she fed into that, things might not have turned out the way they did for all the Israelites, the Jews. Who Haman was planning to kill. Hesitation. It's different from procrastination. We'll talk about that another time, but hesitation. Push past the hesitation, afraid or not, so that you can be where you want to be. Okay. Get out of the comfort zone. Esther did that. My friend again, Dr. Margot Hickman, did that with her degree. She pushed past what was challenging, might felt overwhelming, to keep going. And then here's the last P. Well, and there might be another one. No, this is the last P. And then I just want to make one analogy and wrap things up. Thank you all for being here. I want you to do this. Pat yourself on the back, give yourself the high five. Say, girl, you did that, dude. You really crushing it. Bruh, you making this happen. Pat yourself on the back. You can do hard things. You can do hard things. And I have to remind myself of that. The hard things aren't just, I don't mean it's installing some lights or something like that, working on your car. Hard things can be being consistent with showing up. Hard things can be reaching out. Any of you have a business on here, you sell. Selling is a part of what you do, whether you think it or not. You're selling yourself every day. So the hard things can be, you know what? I followed up with my clients. And the hard thing can be, I am putting myself in different settings and situations so I can stretch and grow. Hard things can be having conversations. I'm having the conversations with people, or it can be hard to say, I'm going to let something go. I'm going to not pacify that L. That's a hard thing, and yet I'm working on it. So when you're seeing yourself even making baby steps, pat yourself on the back and say, girl, you did that. Yay, you. You're making progress. Celebrate that. Celebrate that. Push and pat. Push and then pat yourself on the back when you've done that. Let's review these P's really quickly. And then there's one last thing I want to talk about. I can't come up with a P word for it, but I want to say this. So to be positioned for the possible, to be ready, to be situated, stationed, or placed, or we're occupying, we're planted, we're standing, not passively, not doing anything. We are positioning ourselves for the possible. We're looking for possibilities. We're not living in this space where that's impossible, that won't happen. We're letting that kind of thinking and talking mindset go. And I talk often about the girls upstairs or the guys who live up here who talk crazy to us. They talk more crazy than anybody else out on the streets. And we wouldn't let other people talk crazy to us, but we do sometimes. So we position ourselves for the possible, what we want to attain, what is attainable, by picturing it, preparing, planning, by practicing, by presenting ourselves when those opportunities show up. And then when they do, we are fully present. We bring our A game, our best game. We learn from that. We don't pacify the L's. Spend what time we need to and then keep it pushing, okay? We do push and then we pat ourselves on the back. And then here's one last thing that I want you all to know. There's a favorite area that I walk as often as I can each week. I try for 3 times a week. I haven't been doing so good this week, but it's just Wednesday. I got some more time. I love walking because there's greenery and I don't take music. I just have a free, open mind. And it is the place, I tell you, where I get downloads from God. I get just ideas. I get to cry, snot, do all of that. That's just a good place for me. I notice as I'm walking in this space, there's this greenery that's there. And a few years ago, there was like the hard freeze or whenever it was, and all these beautiful green plants just had been thriving. And even during cooler temperatures, they were just there like evergreen, great stuff. And then that hard freeze came and they just looked ugly, bad, brown, crumbly, ugly. And had you not been walking previously and seen those, you would think these things are just, they never had any life. But then as I continue walking, I noticed, you know what, when the season started to change, through even these little balls of just crackly, brown, dry, ugly stuff that had been beautiful greenery that had just shriveled up, frozen, curled up. They just look bad. I'm going to have a picture the next time and show you all. Look terrible. Few more, I don't know, maybe it's 4 or 5 weeks, some green little shoots started to come up out of that. Not just one, but as I walked the whole path, like little green shoots, they started out very small, but then over time, they just got bigger And it was still the crumbly, ugly ball that was there, but the green life started to come up out of there. And it wasn't just one, it was several. And the more I walked over those weeks, I saw more green coming from what looked dead, what looked impossible, what looked like not sustainable, what looked like terrible, terrible. The green was coming from there. And oh my gosh, as I walked over those weeks and months, what I noticed is more greenery, and the ball of the ugly dead stuff from before was still there, but the green was coming through there. Life new was springing from there. And so what I want to leave with you is this idea of being positioned for possible. Even if you had some junky, crazy stuff that's gone on, even if you've been Charlotte, I've been picturing stuff, I've been practicing preparing, it ain't working. I get that. Trust me, I do. Both hands up. I totally get it. I want you to picture some raggedy old bushes that got frozen over that looked really dead, and realize, I bet if you look in your yard or around your neighborhood or where you like to walk or bike, you'll see green coming up through what looked really dead and impossible. I got so inspired by seeing that. And then it's like I'm anxious to see, you know what? Sprouts of new stuff coming up out of what looked dead. So there is great possibility in what seems impossible. Key is we just can't stop. And you have to. What I'm really trying to get and help you to really just hold on to, we just have to stick in there. We can't give up because we know new thing is coming. New is really down up in what might look dead. New opportunities, new possibilities. There is possible that can come out of what seems impossible, okay? So I'll show you some pictures of that next time. But thank you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for encouraging. Monica, so good to see you here. And Iris and Simo and everybody. Thank you, Marie, as well. I appreciate your support. And if you've gained anything from this, here's my request of you. Here's what I'm doing 2024. And I'm going to be reaching out to you all. I really am. Monica, look for my call. Marie, Amber, I'm talking to people who are winning in life without perfection or permission. You're doing it, and you are models and examples for others. So I'll be hitting you to say, when can I schedule you to come on live, or we'll record it and then we'll play it, because I know this is purpose for me. I'm called to be a conduit, to be a curator of content. So I'm able to share with all of you examples of what it looks like to win without perfection or permission. So thank you for being here. If this benefited you in any way, just put some comments in the chat, and please share. And please, when you hear it's happening next time, I'll be grabbing you. Sabrina, I'm coming your way too, okay? I appreciate you all. Thank you for being here. Hey, get some rest. I'll see you next time. It's been real. Take care. Bye-bye.